The three tags that I would have for myself, write my own job description, multiple head wearer, work-life balance.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Just the Real One. And on this channel, we interview inspirational marketing leaders and entrepreneurs to show you their career journey and life hacks so you can build life on your own term. Today we have Shan. Shan has been working, in the industry as a marketer for more than 13 years, right?
Wow, you're making me feel old, but yeah, I guess 13 years.
And Shan has worked at some really interesting companies, including MongoDB, Duolingo, and startups like Noodles. So today we're going to have Shan as our guest speaker to tell us a little bit more about your career journey and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. I really appreciate, an opportunity for me to reflect upon my 13-year of career journey. Where I am currently is I am the director of performance marketing at Duolingo English Test. At Duolingo, the better known product.
The green bird.
Yes, the green bird. So for those of you who might not be as familiar as Duolingo English Test, it is a English proficiency test for high stake use cases. For example, like study abroad,
Got it.
which we are really familiar with.
Got it.
And then my role at the company is at the pillar is to drive test taker growth. I am at the test taker growth team. I leverage channels like performance marketing and also to drive strategic partnerships with study abroad websites to really increase the adoption of the test amongst people who have an intention to study abroad. And also working with the regional teams like the India team and rest of the world to increase the awareness and the consideration of the test overall. Prior to joining Duolingo, I was at a Series A startup, music startup actually, as the first growth hire as their head of growth. So Slipstream provides music to content creators like yourself to empower their content creation with really good music. Mm-hmm. And then I think reflect upon my overall career, also prior to joining Slipstream as well, I have been experiencing with different verticals like direct to consumer, B2B tag, consumer tag, but mostly my background has been focusing really on scrappy early stage startups. So what really got me here today, and then I think that is also what Duolingo is looking for someone to fill this role is someone who has a deep experience in performance marketing and also experience in a entrepreneurial environment. So by entrepreneurial environment, I mean environment with a lot of ambiguity. So a lot of times, also been the first growth hire in the past once before. I experience a lot with writing my own job description because oftentimes in a early stage startup, which means a lot of the growth loops are not yet matured. The growth model is not clear yet. So you have to think about on the company level, on the business level, what actually drives business impact rather than what I can do. Like I can only do paid search or SEO, but then you have to think about at the company level. So yeah, I think those two things, the ability to navigate through ambiguity and also a background in performance marketing, sort of makes me who I am today.
I love how you mentioned about ambiguity and write your own job descriptions for yourself if you're at like a more early stage startup. As a person who has done startup, myself for about like 6 years, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think for the audience, right, this is such a good inspiration and takeaway because most of the times we're very fixed towards the job descriptions that we saw online when we're applying to a specific job. But in fact, when you get there, you realize that there's so much you can help shaping, especially if the company is, they don't have the growth loop or like you mentioned, the growth model. I love that. Shan, if you could describe yourself with 3 tags, what would they be?
Yes, I think the 3 tags that I would have for myself would be write my own job description, obviously, and B, multiple hat wearer, and then also I consider myself as a work-life balancer.
Ooh, I'm interested in this C, work-life balancers. We'll get to there. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about write your own job description.
Sure. So, like I mentioned earlier, with my startup experiences, being the first marketer hire, being the first growth hire, and oftentimes I cannot just limit myself with the skills that I already have or the job description that I got hired for, but more so I'm trying to think at the business level, but the business need at this point. And then to try to stretch myself to develop those skills, and then to be able to be in a place where I can invent, iterate, optimize, and scale growth loops for the company. So that's where write my own job description comes from.
Interesting. And for the second part, you mentioned about you wear multiple hats. Can you kind of dive into what are the hats are to let everybody know like what they could expect, working as a performance marketer?
So multiple hat wear is really just to go to a lot of different directions. I remember at one point in Sleep.Stream, I was the head of analytics, head of marketing, head of a lot of different things.
Everything.
Yes.
Head of
head of
takeouts, head of team happiness. Yeah. I always remember you have so much hobbies outside work, and you really value spending time with your family and friends. Can you tell us more about? Actually, we're not going to cover like each details on this channel. We do want to cover life hacks. Do you have any life hacks that you think we can take away to still keep the work-life balance? Because you know how startups move so fast.
Yes.
And usually as a growth marketer, I mean, I don't really hear work-life balance from a lot of others. So I'm curious, how do you keep the work-life balance, flavor still in your career?
So here's how I'm thinking about it. As for a company, certainly a company have priorities. That's how those priorities are developed into OKRs, and then you write your own priorities, what you're going to contribute for the company in the next month, next quarter. I think you should also have a list of priorities for yourself. And then as for, in the same fashion, the P0 priorities for companies cannot be compromised. Your own priorities shouldn't be compromised as well. So for example, your top priority would be to spend time with your family and then your health, developing all of your hobbies, supporting your personal
mental
fulfillment
well-being
outside of work. So I think it's really important to set those priorities yourself, and then also to make those priority with a quantifiable goal attached to them, and then to make sure yourself sticking to those goals.
Shan, you mentioned a lot about your background, working at a more startup environment and with more scrappy strategies. So I'm really curious, if you are going to build a growth team for a startup, how would you approach it?
There are a lot of articles and a lot of thought leadership in this topic, how to build your first growth team. Or then I think amongst all of these growth guru output on this topic, one of them actually stands out, which is Andrew Chen's article on it. The title of the article is literally how to build a growth team. So I think his POV is greatly influenced by his experience at Uber in 2013. So his point of view is the most ideal setup of a growth team consists of a growth designer, a growth data person, a growth engineer, a growth marketer, and a growth PM. So you need to have all of these 5 roles to be in the growth team to make sure that it's running efficiently and doing what it's supposed to do. But then when we talk about Uber in 2013, it's already a massive
company.
It's a massively successful company already, although it's still a startup, but it is really on a different scale than the startup environment that you and I are familiar with. So when we talk about how to build a growth team for your startup, I think the question would actually, for a lot of startup, would actually be how to make your first growth hire, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you think about the first growth hire, I think most ideally at this point, when you try to hire a growth person, you would already have one or two channels, meaning, or one or two growth loops that are already in place, producing stable output. So this person, first of all, would be a subject matter expert of the channel or of the growth loop that is already operating, to take over it, to manage it, to optimize it, and then scale it. And then also work alongside with the founders, with with the company to experiment and explore, to really put on the exploration mode of a second, even the third growth loop. So which really goes back to the beginning of the interview. What I have mentioned was you need to think outside of what you can do, but more so what the company needs, and then to stretch yourself to that. So that's essentially what it means.
That's so critical. That's like the first, step into structuring the growth team, right? And as a former founder, I really resonate. I relate to that so much because it's actually what I found in the past. It's very difficult to hire your first growth marketer because you're really essentially looking for someone who understands every single parts of the marketing channel and also understands customer journey. How to activate customers from awareness, consideration to decision and eventually purchase stage.
Is really critical. Essentially, this person needs to be really exploratory. They will come across a lot of frustrations just because a lot of the things was simply not gonna work. So yeah, and also back to Andrew Chen's POV on the complete growth squad. I think another point I would like to touch on is why would I pick a growth marketer out of the 5 to be the first growth hire.
Yeah.
So and I think either growth marketer or a growth PM would be the best to suit for the first growth hire position. Mainly because I'm not saying those are more important, but then those are the 2 roles that are easier to get more essential to forming the growth loops. And then as for data person, the designer, and also the engineer can be resources pulled in from other parts of the company as they see fit.
Hi, Shan. How is AI? This is like the hottest topic. I'm sure everybody is talking about it. And how is AI really impacting your job? And do you have any tools that you are, using on a daily basis that you think it's worth sharing to the audience?
Yeah. How is AI impacting my job? My job is not impacted just yet. I still have my job, so
I'm happy. And I was really worried when the green bird is dead too. Can you let me know?
Yeah, I think the bird is revived. Just check out Duolingo's Instagram, I think.
Okay, good to know.
I know people have hosted funerals for the bird, but yeah, I think it's coming back to life.
Yeah, I was really busy with cybersecurity, so I didn't have time to really, host a funeral for your bird. But I'm glad it's back to life.
But yeah, back to AI. I as a marketer, I still have my job, still not replaced by AI. So thank you, AI. A couple of tools. Mostly, I have been using just ChatGPT recently. 2 things. One would be using it to process data. So occasionally, I would use Excel to build models, to do analysis, but then not very often. So then, which means my Excel spreadsheet skills is kind of rusty. So then with ChatGPT, I can just give very exact prompt. I'll be like, help me make this very complex formula work. And then I wanted to do this. Please write me the formula, which I can use directly. It has been working really well, and also it is very good at troubleshooting the formulas too.
Love this use case.
Yeah. And then another one which I discovered very recently is that the LLM models are super efficient in helping you to review all of the legal contracts.
Interesting. So tell me more.
Yeah, to reduce a lot of the back and forth. So it is a really hectic when you have to go through a contract with the legal department to go back and forth at the redlining process. So I would just simply put the entire contract into, or section by section, into ChatGPT and then asking me to explain these sections and what are the hidden risks and how does ChatGPT recommend me fixing those risks? What kind of languages should I, explicitly put in the contract to limit the obligations or the financial risk, etc. So then I will put all of those back into the Google Doc to share with my legal person, and then the legal person would, redline based on all of my notes, and making this process normally takes maybe 1 or 2 weeks to like 2 to 3 days. So
wow, that really speed up the process.
It really has been, yeah.
It's like, do you watch Suits, the lawyer show? It's
Yeah,
almost like you have Harvey as your assistant. Yeah,
almost like that. Yeah.
And for performance marketing specifically, you know how on the platform level, right? There are a lot of different AI-powered features to help you improve your ads creativity or improve, the distribution of the ads. Do you use any kind of that type of tools on your tool stack?
I'm really glad that you asked that. Actually, no. So I think right now, or not like a hard no, but more so like I think at this stage, the AI recommendations on advertising platforms are still, in my opinion, at a nascent stage.
Premature?
Yes, it's not as mature, and then oftentimes it's
early stage.
It sometimes would lead to overspending or budget, or some of the recommendations simply doesn't make sense. Or I'm not saying like it is completely not relatable to the business, but more so in the sense of like, so for example, the creatives recommended by the AI, you know how all of the companies need to go through a review cycle of all of the text ads and all of the imageries. So just a lot of times the AI generated text ads are not as accurate, or not approved by the company yet, and then B, it is just not quite there, not quite what we want. Yeah,
it sounds like on the platform level of the AI tools, there are not are probably at earlier stage, and it's not really quite there yet, like you mentioned, to help you really improve efficiency. It probably takes more time, right, to review and refine the ad copy and eventually using it. That is a very interesting take. Yeah.
Yeah. So we still have our jobs. Yeah.
Now my favorite part of this episode, the book Exchanging. Shan, I want to share my book with you first.
Sure.
And this is The Power of Full Engagement. So this book, I actually really like how they said it. There are a number of hours in a day is fixed, but the quantity and the quality of the energy available to us is not. This fundamental insights has power to revolutionize the way you live. So as soon as I discovered this book, I really like it because it basically helped me rethink about time management. It's not really about time management. We don't lack of hours in our life. We actually lack of energy. So I want to give this book to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm really looking forward to see your book recommendation.
The book I have for you is Competing Against Luck. So it is a book that really clicked at my time at Slipstream, the music startup. So prior to joining Slipstream, I was at Casper, as you know. So if you think about Casper, it's more of a mature business, already found channel product fit. At the music startup, though, I really don't have the luxury to having multiple growth loops to optimize, but rather I have to invent and iterate and experiment different growth loops. So this book actually helped me a lot to getting into that mindset. And one of the framework that it has brought up is jobs to be done. So meaning you really need to find out the jobs that your customers, especially your paying customers, are hiring you for, are hiring your product for. So that has really guided me to build customer interview programs to interview customers at different stages of their life cycle. So for example, just subscribed or just churned and also have been a paying customer for a little while to understand their need for the product. And one of the interesting things that I have found is that a lot of creators, content creators, perhaps you can also speak to that as well, when they're looking for the perfect track to match with their video. They're always searching for genre. They are searching for the mood of the music. They're searching for how fast paced the tempo of the music, BPM. But rather, what they're looking for is a vibe that goes with their video. Whether it is, I don't feel like going to work today, or I just ate a pastry and I feel really happy because of the carb and oil and all that. So then with that, we started to double down on the playlists that we invent, because all of the playlists are surrounding one particular vibe. So then to facilitate the content creators process of searching for the perfect track that would go with their video.
Okay, Shan, you know how on this channel we talk about, life hacks, and this is like a bonus surprise question for all the guests coming here. We want to know, because you've worked in the industry for, a long time, right? Relatively. And what is the function you think is most useless in the organization that you definitely do not recommend anyone who's in college to go to that route?
It's actually a seasonally hot take. I would say don't go in a function that is going to be impacted by AI. So that said, I think I would work backwards to think what generative AI is really good at doing right now, and then trying to avoid those fields. For example, copywriter. No offense to copywriters, I think it will be AI will take it will take AI a long time to catch up with human copywriters to produce the same quality with the same vibe that human copywriters would provide. But oftentimes in really scrappy environment, they don't need taglines like just do it, or but then they just need something that would work in the moment, because minimum viable product, right? And then we're gonna push out a V1 version and then gonna iterate upon that. So that really makes such roles doing similar things as a generative AI really dangerous.
It's not a specific function. It's actually a framework to think about, what's going to be useless in the future. Yeah. Thank you, Shan, for visiting me today and share your knowledge and especially the hot takes.
Yes, sure.